to take my journals from since I started getting sober, 2015, and transfer them to a blog so people can see. I just posted a blog yesterday where I'm talking about my sobriety and how things are going, and this is 2018. And then a few months later, you see I am writing and I'm not sober, and I'm like questioning, is this really how I'm supposed to feel? Because I feel amazing. And then you see, the post where I'm not feeling amazing from not being sober, and there's really no like way to explain this is how I did it and what I did, because there's every day was different.
But yeah, I was literally awake since Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. until I finally fell asleep at like 10 a.m. this morning.
That's crazy. That sounds like me though. I know I'm like that, but I'm like, man, he's always up. I'm always up, but he's always up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm literally always up, and I was yeah. I texted two people this morning to cancel with them, but I didn't text you because I still anticipated coming in this afternoon and talking to you. So that's why I didn't text you, and I texted them because I wasn't going to make it in at 9, 10 a.m. to do this because I was basically drunk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I drove over here at 7 a.m. to turn on the lights for my tortoise so like his day could start and I wouldn't feel guilty that he didn't have sunlight. And I felt drunk driving over here. Like, and I was like, well, I'm going to go home. So yeah. But when I woke up and I saw your text, I was like, oh, good. She still wants to talk. Hopefully she's free by the time
Yeah.
I get there.
And
So
my brain was like, okay, he didn't relapse, so I don't have anything to panic about. I said, I bet he's asleep.
yeah, I definitely if I would have relapsed, it would have been a while ago. News wise, like I don't like, you know what I mean. Like there's been so many like not bad news, but just shitty things that come up. It's fucking life, and I don't need the relapse. Like that's the one thing. Like someone posted in a group that I'm in, like an addiction group, and they're like, "So, what did you learn about yourself and your sobriety in this year?" One of those things. And I wrote that I learned that I can literally get through anything and still not get drunk or get high. I had already had the assumption that I could do that, right? You know what I mean? Like I already had an assumption that I could get through hard shit, but I'd never been tested. Like, and I've been tested, with death, but not tested with like shit that's really out of your control, like Mikey's disease, Mikey getting sick. That's different than death in my opinion because that's like lifelong disease that we have to try to figure out and manage for her. So a death, it's almost easier to get over than having your best friend and loved one and significant other get diagnosed with a lifelong disease with no cure. And I feel like it's easier to get through death than that kind of shit because it's more final, right? Like death is final. And once you can like kind of learn how to deal with grief, to understand that literally you can't do shit about it. The person's gone, unfortunately, and all you can do is live their memory on in a positive way, and tell people about them and tell stories about them and let them live on through your stories. Like my studio is John Johnson Memorial Studio. It's for my best friend, and I just like saying his name, and getting his name out there, and just, he wasn't a drug addict or anything. He was one of the hardest working guys I know. He just got into a bad car accident, almost 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years in June. So, it's about just honoring their memory. But when there's somebody that's sick next to you all day, every day, and you hear them groaning in pain and suffering, and you just know that you can't do shit about it, it's pure agony for me. And I'm sorry if she's listening, but it is pure agony for me sometimes, because I can't. I'm helpless, But I know that if I get drunk, it's not going to fix her MS. It's not going to make her feel better. If I get fucked up on pills, it's not going to make her feel better. I mean, if she took the pills, it might make her feel better. But she never was into Oxy anyway, so that wouldn't work out for her. Like we are so glad we met after our runs because we feel like if we would have met in addiction, we would have been completely toxic for each other.
Yeah.
you know, we would have co-signed each other's bullshit. We would have been like, yeah, do that, yeah, and just been a horrible toxic couple. So, you know, timing. Life is definitely about timing. You know, that's something I've been learning too. Shit, our timing, meeting each other. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like perfect timing because I feel like you needed a boost. You know, with your content and what you were doing and doing more with it. And I feel like you definitely got that boost.
Yeah.
Like you think so too? Because we first recorded back in what, October, November? It was
Yeah,
a couple months
November.
ago. Yeah. So, and since then, how have you been feeling like with your sobriety and what you've been doing?
Amazing. I don't know that I would be like sober without the community that I have.
Yeah,
Um,
you're literally building your own community with like your women and even like meet your guys, you know, that you're friends with.
yeah, I met some amazing people. I was actually on my Facebook Live crying the other day because I just like it was happy tears. I'm like, I've met so many amazing people on this app, and then there's the rest of you who just suck, but like my life's been changed.
Yeah, it really like I definitely have felt a shift in like, you know, my confidence and my sobriety in a good way in the last like 5 or 6 months. Ever since I've been putting myself out there more and meeting people like you and, you know, having fun conversations like we did with all, you know, the girls a couple weeks ago and, you know, and doing fun, weird, creative shit like that. Like that's it's keeping me going all the time. Like I so enjoy doing this because like it keeps me sober. Like there was a girl texting me at I don't know midnight, but 11 o'clock at night last night, and she was in England. You know, like 4 a.m. and she watches my show and she didn't want to drink anymore and she wanted help. She wanted resources. She's 21 years old and she's like, I've been drinking for 3, 4 years and I want to stop, but I don't know how. Or she said
Dang.
she said I need to stop, and I was like, damn, at 21 I knew I needed to stop, so I found pills instead. So you're way ahead of the game.
Right.
I
You're
was like,
early.
yeah, when alcohol stopped working for me, I'm like, where are the opiates? Like, let's get this going. And she was like, yeah, I want to stop. I'm like, that's good. And she's like, I don't want to be a burden though. I'm like, listen, that we need this, like us being sober. We need people like you to keep us sober. We need the new person to help out each time because we see ourselves in that person. And we want to help you because it helps us stay sober. So you're never going to burden somebody like in the rooms. If you go into a meeting and say, hey, I need a sponsor, like, can someone help me? You're going to have women flock to you like crazy to help you. And I told her, I said, please go to an all women's meeting because you're 21 and there's going to be men that are going to try to take advantage, unfortunately. And I want you to make sure you get this right and you do this right. So please find an all women's meeting. And then she didn't know how to do that. So then I found her meetings in UK and where she lives in the UK. I found her AA meetings and then sent her over a sober coach that I interviewed a few weeks ago saying, hey, hit her up too because she's doing a dry January challenge. So,
Perfect.
yeah, you know, it's shit like that. Have you had people reach out like that yet?
About sobriety, no. Um about healing from my sexual abuse and my traumas, and like it all ties in together though.
Oh,
So
it does. Yeah.
to take my journals from the last since I started getting sober 2015, and transfer them to a blog so people can see. I just posted a blog yesterday where I'm talking about my sobriety and how things are going, and this is 2018. And then a few months later, you see I am writing and I'm not sober, and I'm like questioning, is this really how I'm supposed to feel? Because I feel amazing. And then you see, the post where I'm not feeling amazing from not being sober, and there's really no like way to explain this is how I did it and what I did, because there's every day was different. Every day is different still.
Yeah. And it should be different, you know, because we deal with different things. If you're having the same problems every day, then you got to change up where you fucking go. You got to change up who you're seeing and who you're talking to if you're having the same problems every day. So there's always going to be different challenges along the way, especially in like this isn't a one-time thing. Like, oh yeah, I got it, I'm done. Like, check out, I'm good to go now. There's always going to be obstacles and things like New Year's Eve. This episode's coming out, a couple of days later into January, but it's New Year's Eve when we're talking right now, and it's the biggest part. Like I vaguely remember, vaguely remember, but I remember, my first real blackout drunk was on New Year's Eve when I was in 7th grade. That was my first ever like blackout. Like I did like 8 kamikazes in a row. Like kamikazes, right? Like triple sec or whatever, and line, yeah. But I was doing them in cups. My dad was making pictures of them. My dad was like the kamikaze king back in the day. My parents they're not alcoholics, but they know how to party, right? And so my dad, when he would go to the bar, they would have him go behind the bar to make the kamikazes. And they called them floaters, the way my dad made them with the limes. They called them floaters. But my dad would make pictures of them for New Year's Eve. And so I had, family that are like, oh, yeah, you're cute. You want a drink? You can, here, have one. And then another family, here, have one. Next thing you know, I had 8. And yeah, that was my first blackout drunk. My first ever smoking weed, exactly a year later, New Year's Eve, with my friend Jesse, that unfortunately, him and I got sober together. And then he overdosed on his relapse 6 months later. I talk about Jesse a lot because we grew up sharing a fence. We were backyard neighbors for 12 years, and I moved around a lot except for those 12 years. And Jesse and I were always really close. Our birthdays were a few weeks away, and we shared a backyard. So in Jersey, you're talking, and we're getting to know each other. And when we both got sober, it wasn't like, hey, let's get sober together. It was, hey, holy shit, you're in Florida and you're in rehab. I'm in California and I'm in rehab. Let's talk. Let's talk about this. And then we got really close again. And then, yeah. But I always say that, Jesse taught me a lesson that I didn't want him to teach me. That, he died so I could live. That it's not getting any better out there. Fentanyl is ready to kill me, and it's a lesson that I never want to learn. And I never want somebody close to me to teach me, but I have to learn from it, or else what was the point, Do you have bad experiences with New Year's Eve too?
No, just the typical party. I do have one instance that sticks out because it's funny, and it was, New Year's Eve 2000 and going in 2009. So I was still on the bars, I think.
I'm trying to think, where was I in? I was getting really high on pills. That was when I first discovered pills that October. So I was really high that New Year's Eve. I can't even fucking tell you.
Good. I can tell you I took at least 4 Xanax bars and was just driving all over the city. I went to the police station to pick up a friend. And it's just like New Year's Eve, the last few years have been more chill. I've been more, especially having awareness, even if I have drank, I know my limits. I don't have limits, but if I've been drunk, being blackout drunk hasn't been my thing in several years, but just the experience of, New Year's Eve is the, what is it? The
ambiance.
Yeah, of the whole thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's ways to celebrate it without, drinking. That's what I've noticed in the last was it 2019 was my first time I was sober for New Year's Eve, and since like 6th grade. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking like fucking 1998 to 2019. It was the first time I was sober on New Year's Eve, and then the next year I wasn't sober because I had relapsed. And then the last one I was, and then this one I'm going to be. I have no intentions on drinking tonight. For me, it's that once I learned that I could wake up not hungover, it was a pretty good feeling for New Year's Eve. Like waking up and going, oh, cool. Like I don't feel like absolute dog shit right now. I don't feel like I have to go to McDonald's and stuff my face with grease in order to kill this hangover. I don't feel like I need to do drugs to kill this hangover. I don't need to drink more right now to kill this hangover. I had never not been hungover on New Year's Eve. It was, and I don't sleep. We know this. So like, I would get hammered until like 4 a.m. and then wake up at fucking 6:30. Be like, I guess my day has started, because I can't fall back asleep because of fucking insomnia, you know. So yeah, I am so over that whole, like, it doesn't serve me anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me feel good anymore. It makes me feel bad. Now that I'm like 35, like last time I had a drink, I was 33. 33? 2020. Yeah, I turned 34 that year. Yeah, so it was 33. And I, yeah, I'm not completely healthy, but I'm definitely a lot healthier than I was a couple years ago. I mean, I haven't had a drink. It'll be 2 years, February 29th, which doesn't exist this year.
I know. I that in your podcast.
Yeah, I don't get to celebrate my sober date except for once every 4 years. But that's why I picked it. And not that I picked it. It was like I woke up hungover on leap day, right? And my wife and I, we were drinking together, not like alcoholically.
Right.
We were being safe when I relapsed because I was so indoctrinated with the program that like it was gonna be hard for me to overdrink. And I didn't for 9 months, but then I did, and I drank a whole bottle of Jack in one night, and like I woke up so fucking hungover, and it was like 7 a.m. because it's fucking me. And I said to her, like, listen, I need to either never drink again, drink right now, or get really fucking high. And I was like, it's leap day. So it would be the coolest fucking sober day ever if we stopped now. And she was like, okay, I'll quit with you. And then we haven't had drinks since. And quarantine happened fucking 2 weeks later. What do you think the biggest thing that you want to accomplish is for the new year with your sobriety? And
Um,
basically, not even just your sobriety, but your recovery. And when I say recovery, I mean recovery from everything, recovery from trauma, and recovery from, you know, addiction.
yeah, because recovery is, drugs and alcohol until it's you take that out, and then now I have this blooming this sex addiction. Oh, but then I also have this eating disorder, and I still have these things to address. So, one of the main things for me is writing. I really want to start my book. I have been getting out some of my blogs, and I want to do that more consistently. Have like new writings instead of just keeping things in my head. I want to connect more with people. Like, I want to go see you, and I want to go see my friend in Michigan, and I have two friends in Michigan, and then I have a friend in California. And why can't I? I can.
You really can. That's
I
the
was
thing is, you
I was
know,
blowing money on, shots, $8 a shot, a $50 night plus a $40 night plus, $80 out to eat and drinking. It all adds up, and I can totally do the things I thought I couldn't do.
yeah, exactly. And the book is just a matter of one sentence at a time. Where, it's a matter of starting. I feel like writing a book is a matter of just sitting. Like when I wrote a screenplay, I've written a couple, and when I started, it was the hardest thing to like go. You know what I mean? For some reason, just like going. But once I got started, there was no stopping me. And then that was my first one. That was with a writing partner. My second one that I did solo, I outlined everything first in a notebook. Like, scene one is going to be this, scene two is going to be this, scene three is going to be this. And then I would go back into scene one and then write the dialogue. Go back into scene two and I wrote the dialogue. So, but you can do that with a book too. I want chapter one to cover these ages. I want chapter two to cover this. I want chapter three. It's a good way to at least get yourself putting something on paper to look back on when you start typing. You go, okay, chapter one's going to be about this year. What was I doing this year? And then you start going. It's just a matter of spilling your guts and then letting an editor go, you don't need that part. You don't need, yeah, we'll take this part out. You don't need this part. This part's great. Like, I think that's the biggest thing is starting. And
Yeah.
it's the same as like addiction. I have this old timer that comes to AA meetings and he's like, I didn't quit anything. I've never quit anything a day in my life. I just stopped starting. I don't know how to quit, but I know how to stop starting. And I was like, oh shit, that makes a lot of sense. But you can also use that that thinking with, I just need to start this shit and it'll get momentum and it'll get rolling. Because that's the problem with addiction is it gets momentum and it gets rolling once we start again. Once we start again, we're like, well, I'm back to 0 days and that countdown's back at 0. I might as well keep going. And then it
Right.
rolls. But that momentum goes, right? So it's the same. It's when you start something, you're gonna get momentum.
This episode is sponsored by MJ's Progress Not Perfection Meeting Center Association. We are in our meeting center where we do all these meetings for mental health and addiction. I can do this podcast anywhere. I can do this at home. I can do this in a closet. I can do this in a basement. It doesn't matter. All I need is somebody else to talk to about addiction and recovery. What I can't do from anywhere is help people with their addiction and their mental health problems. So if you can help out, we do have a Venmo, we have a Cash App, we have a PayPal, we have an address you can send a check to, and all the money that gets donated goes towards rent, goes towards keeping the lights on, and goes towards keeping the internet on. So please, if you can give $5, $10, $20, it doesn't matter. Anything you can is so appreciated. And if you are a local business, if you're a national business, whatever, and you want to be a part of what we're doing, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how you can be a sponsor. But I'll let you get back to the episode.
I just think once you get some momentum going, you're going to be in the right spot. It's the same with your sobriety now. It's the same with your TikTok page. It's the same with your blog. You got to get momentum going, right? And as soon as you do, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is actually easier than I thought. It's just a matter of getting out of our fucking heads to take that block away, to actually start something.
I was so upset with myself. I'm typing like 2017. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these things that I manifested for myself in sobriety are coming now to cycle. But why the hell haven't I been doing this before? It's so easy. Like,
yeah,
already done the work. I just need to type it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you've already lived it. It's just a matter of starting to type, which can be the hardest thing. Starting something is a very, especially something like that, where I think it can be intimidating. I know it can be intimidating. When I sat down to write my first script, it was called Hybristophilia. You probably have hybristophilia, honestly. I know you do. Hybristophilia is the Bonnie and Clyde syndrome, where you're attracted to somebody because of them doing bad shit. And so I wrote this story about this couple that were con artists together back in the 80s. And like, this guy was conning this rich family, and this teenage daughter caught on and was like, either I'm telling my dad or I'm running away with you and you're going to teach me everything you know. And and the story is from her perspective, with like the woman's perspective of what's going on, and the voiceover is a woman's voiceover the entire time, because it's a Tarantino thing. I love how Tarantino puts things from the women's perspective, like with Mia and Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill, and he's all about showing the Jackie Brown, showing women's perspectives. So it's kind of where I got that from, because I learned how to write by listening to interviews from Quentin Tarantino talking about writing. That's how I learned how to write. I wasn't going to go to school for it. I just watched interviews and I watched my favorite movies with the commentary on, so I could hear why the directors and why the writers made their decisions they made. And that was my film school to write. So it's not the most professional thing, but it worked for me. But the hardest part was like, oh shit, when is this going to end? How is this going to end? And then you get caught up in your head about the ending, and you didn't even fucking start it yet.
Yeah.
It just start. It's just a matter of starting, and it'll work itself out sometimes. And I feel like that's a lot of things that goes for a lot of things in life. Whether it's me starting this podcast, you starting a book, you starting a TikTok page, you starting your blog back up, which, by the way, I'll put the link to your blog in the description. So whether you're listening or you're watching, and if you want some more info on Krissi's journaling from her years of drinking and not drinking and her madness that ensued, it'll be in there.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking men that have been in and out of my life since I've been divorced, like traumas that I've accrued from my addiction. Yeah,
definitely accrued. You acquired, accrued, same difference, same
you know.
difference.
So, yeah.
So, do you think it would be easier if you made an outline for yourself?
No.
No, you think you just need to start.
Yeah,
You fucking start typing.
Yeah, I can't compartmentalize. I can't even say the word either.
Compartmentalize.
I can't. I want to have everything. I want to see it, and I want to put it how I want it. But I want it all out there. Like, it's kind of like, when you're, well, I don't know if anyone else has this trauma response. You overshare when you meet someone right away, but in a good way. Like, yeah. Yeah,
I find it important though. I find it important sometimes that, like, it depends on the situation, but like even when I started dating in sobriety, like when I started dating again, it was through like, Tinder and Bumble and shit. It was in my bio. Hey, I'm in recovery. You can drink, I don't care, but I'm not gonna drink. But I can hang around with you. It's not gonna bother me. I'm just not gonna drink. And I'm 420 friendly, because I use that medicine as a way to stay sober. And I would make sure that, hey, did you read my bio? Okay, cool. So you saw I'm sober? Like, off the bat, get it the fuck out of the way, because I didn't want to all of a sudden meet somebody and go through that whole thing of getting to know you bullshit and then meet them like, oh, you don't drink? Oh, this is a waste of time. This isn't going to be fun for me. And then as opposed to, you would just swipe left on me and we're not going to waste our times.
Right.
I don't, you know.
That's healthy. Yeah, that is healthy. So I guess it was not healthy for me because I would say, hey, my name's Krissi, and these are all the reasons I'm going to tell you you shouldn't like me, because at the end of this, if you get to know me and decide you don't like me on your own, I can't have that. I made the choice right away that you don't like me because I shared all these bad things, but it is important, to let someone know where they align at with you,
Well, so when you were doing that, when you were like, when you were saying when you were oversharing like that, what did some people react to it negatively? But you had to have had some people react to it positively, and they're probably still in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the way of like I'm gonna figure out right now we're gonna be friends or not. So here's all the darkest shit about me, and if we can still be friends, then let's move on from there. So I don't think it's. I think the problem is the opposite, Krissi. I honestly think the problem is the people that hide their shit, and then let me find out that you're a piece of shit later on. And then I'm gonna be pissed that you deceived me and you put this mask on. I'd rather, it's almost like, do you watch Bob's Burgers?
No, I watch nothing.
I'm obsessed with Bob's Burgers, but there's one Valentine's episode where they're doing speed dating, and the one guy is like an old disgruntled cop that's divorced, and he's like, I know, we're gonna tell each other the worst things about each other, and if you can stomach it, and if you can handle it, then it's gonna be okay. So on these speed dates, they're just like saying all the worst shit about their histories to each other. And that's what it reminds me of. They're just getting it the fuck out there. They're just like, here it is. Here's who I am. It's, there's that song, Take Me or Leave Me, the Broadway song. I think it's from Rent. I'm probably wrong, and my gay friends are yelling at me right now listening to the show. But Take Me or Leave Me is definitely from a Broadway show. And that's what I think of. Is like, listen, I am who the fuck I am. I'm a sober dude that loves talking about being a sober dude. I use cannabis, but I don't smoke it. And you wouldn't even know I fucking use it unless I told you I use it, and I like to chill and just like get the note. Literally, that what I do for these interviews is what I just like to do in general, is get to know people. I enjoy the process of talking to somebody so fucking much and being like, where are you from? How did you grow? What did you like? I fucking love it. People like you are why I'm sober right now, because you give me someone to talk to all the time and someone to communicate with and resonate with. Like, you and I probably couldn't be any more different, but also so much the fucking same.
Right.
Like totally fucking different in a lot of ways. However, you and I both know how much we are alike. The fans don't even know how much we are alike, but you and I know we're almost the same person, but we couldn't be any more different. And that's what's so fucking cool about doing this is you find yourself in other people that you never would think that, oh shit, I'm like them. That's like me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
How have you felt watch? Because I know you told me you've been watching episodes lately. Ever like in the last like week or so, you were like, oh my god, I just watched this one or I just watched that one. Like, what have you been seeing? Have you been seeing yourself a lot?
Yeah, I have. I get excited. It I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when I hear someone talk about something, it lights something up in me. It's like, oh my gosh, or I'll remember something. Yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to your episodes the last few days at work. Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, but the last few days while I'm working. Um,
It was in the background. You were barely watching or listening. You were working really hard.
or I got really excited when How I Met Your Mother Sober, like, because I just listened to her episode and then she liked one of my posts like this morning or last night. And I'm like,
Oh, I love Jules.
yeah, I'm like, girl, I know you're like story now. I feel like this connection with people that I've never known. I even have goosebumps right now talking about it. Like, people I've never known, but they just fit right into my life and my alignment where, like, when I was on TikTok and we found each other when I was on live, like I was
Yeah.
doing the thing at the right time. And that's how life is
Yeah,
continuing to
if
go.
you weren't on your live, you probably never would have, because I'm not the kind of person that, is going to, your account's a little bit of a bigger account on TikTok, especially. And the DMs, they get lost in those big accounts. You know what I mean? Like on TikTok. I wasn't even going to attempt to DM you, but I knew some of your story from seeing your posts. And I saw you were live and you were interacting with people in the comments. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to ask her to do the show and just learn about her then. And you're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, because I like going in blind. If you're listening or watching this, know that majority of my episodes, the first time I'm talking to that person, unless I started off with long time no see or, I'd known you since blah, blah, blah. Like, if they're a stranger, I don't know shit about them. I don't want to do research on them. I don't Google their name. I don't look for mugshots. Like, I want to organically find out information in the moment. I I don't like to read questions off of a fucking sheet. I don't like to do pre-interviews. I like organic. Like the other day, I had Happy Sober Free. I don't know if you know her page, Emily. She's fucking awesome, and she's out in Arizona, but she's a Wisconsin girl. And I had other Wisconsin people on the show, 3 actually, and all 3 are authors, and she's an aspiring author. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I was in Madison." I was like, "Oh, my guy was in Madison. My guy Travis Sackett. He's been on my show twice. He's a cop to criminal." She's like, "Oh my god, I was in rehab with him." Swear to
Wow.
God, yeah, swear to God, they were in rehab together like 8 years ago, and they're
That
still
is
friends. And they're still friends to this day.
it. It's kind of like for me, you want to have your old friends from the past. I don't know if you saw any of my Instagram or TikTok today. I shared about 2 of my friends who I had a falling out with when I got sober, who died a few weeks later drinking and driving. And all of
No,
our last, well, I lost a lot of friends in my journey, a lot, not only to death, but just changing it up. And one thing that always stuck with me is obviously I like to read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, I think is the book. I think, but I could be wrong. But pretty much for the since 2014, I've been telling myself, okay, you are made up of the 5 people you hang out with the most. You make an average of those 5 people's incomes. You're an average of the 5 things you listen to, the 5 things you watch. And it all sounds good. But when you actually, like, now I'm sitting, like a couple weekends ago, I'm sitting in a room with Trashly Anonymous, okay? And she's sober, recovering. Katie, who just published her 2nd book in 4 months. Tiffany, who just started. Like, I'm now having to level up, and it's scary as hell because it's like you are who you hang out with. Then there's you. You have a podcast. You're doing big things. Like
yeah, but
you're
we no, but they need you like you need them. We need you like you need us.
Yeah, but it's causing me to level up, and it's what I've been manifesting for years. When I look around me, I'm seeing people that like, oh yeah, you know, I'm not gonna wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not gonna drink till 5:30 in the morning on St. Patrick's Day anymore when I could be typing or doing something, or even hanging out on a live.
Yeah, you never would have had that kind of moment or moments that you had a couple weeks ago at that hotel had you had still been drinking.
Not at all. Wouldn't even have a TikTok. Wouldn't even have good connections. I mean, I was happy crying on live the other day about how much it's meant to me to truly
Your
be in alignment.
blog is proof of that, Krissi. Your blog is proof of that, from what you told me already without even having to read it. You can look back and see the madness of when you would drink and then not drink and then drink again and then it'd be good and then it's alcohol is like that toxic relationship that you want to find the good parts in, and you're like, oh well, this was good and that was good, and it's like, yeah, but bitch, don't forget this, that, this, that, this, that, this, and that. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. It is. You have to like do that with toxic relationships, whether it's men, women, or alcohol or drugs. I was talking to one of my really good friends the other day, and they were saying how they kind of missed an ex, and how and I know how like emotionally abusive that ex was. So I was just like, you don't forget this. But they were like, yeah, but this, and then that, and then this, and then that, and then this. And I'm like, hey, I can play this game too. When I was on pills, I had this and that, and this, and that, and this, and that. But you fucking hated this, and that. And that was overpowering all the other stuff. And they were like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah. So we got to remember that shit. That toxic relationship, we can find the happy times. Like you said in your blog, we were like, I was happy then, and then I see where I wasn't, and I was miserable. And it's because of that roller coaster ride of that relationship that we have with the drink or the drug is just exactly the same as a relationship that you have with a man or a woman that's toxic. A lot of great times and a lot more horrible times. And the problem is those great times pop in your head like little memories, like little core memories, like, oh, you did this. Oh, you did this because of alcohol. Or you did this because of pills. And it's like, yeah, but you did this too. And you also did this. You stole this and you hurt that person. It's just a matter of thinking on both sides of the fence whenever those happy thoughts about drinking and drugging come in your mind. You have to be cognizant of that other side of the fence. And the less and less, the more times you go to the happy thoughts and you don't revisit the bad thoughts, the more likely you are to follow those happy thoughts into a relapse. That's why everyone always says you relapse in your head well before you actually put a drink or a drug back in your body. It's because we're overthinkers. It's because we're empaths and we overthink shit and we take shit personal and then we hurt ourselves with it. Like shit, my fucking your fourth step when you do the steps is all about writing down your resentments. And 75% of my list was against myself because I resented myself so much for my addiction and what I did in it.
Yeah.
You know, People don't do it that way. I've had a sponsee hand me a list once and it was like everybody but themselves like on the list. I'm like, you don't resent yourself for anything? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't resent yourself for anything you've done. Yeah, I did this and I did that. I didn't like that I did this to my mom or did this to my dad. I'm like, so you resent yourself for that? They're like, yeah. I'm like, write it on the fucking list because that's going to be the longest list that you write is the resentments against yourself. And then guess what? When you get to your step 9, when you have to do make amends, you can go back to your step 4, to all the reasons you hated yourself, and then apologize for them now by linking them to your step 9 for amends. And it's just a matter of that's how I did it. I made sure to go back to my 4 and be like, all right, why did I hate myself for this? Okay, I can apologize for that. I'm not ready to apologize for that. That kind of thing. But
Yeah.
everyone does shit differently. But I think it's a matter of just trying and doing is what's most important. Like getting yourself out of that shell, like starting to type, starting to
Yeah.
connect with people, starting to, someone's like, how do you get all these guests from all over? I'm like, I messaged them and I asked them to do the show. I don't know. They're like, what? You just message them out of the blue? Yeah. Or I comment something on their post, or yeah, it's just simple as that. And they're like, oh, I'm like, you just got to put yourself out there. And then once you do, there are people that are like, because I never would have met Katie or Tiffany if it wasn't for you. You did my show, you posted your episode, and then and it took you like a week, you said, to post your episode because like you were 2 weeks, yeah. And then once you did though, and then all of a sudden Katie reached out because then she saw my previous DM, and then Tiffany all of a sudden reached out. Literally both of them reached out within like 2 days of each other. And it was like 3 days after you had posted, your episode on your page. So
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing where, we can introduce each other to other people too. And that's how our circle kind of grows in this sobriety, and we do make our own recovery. People think that recovery is like, oh, you have to do only AA or only NA or only the steps, and it won't work unless you just do that. Not fucking true. I've gone years without a meeting, but I love meetings, so I encourage them. But still, you can stay sober without a meeting. I don't like Zoom meetings, so I didn't do them during COVID. And I was able to stay sober, for a year and 3 months before I even opened a meeting center without one meeting. So that tells me everything I need to know about how meetings keep me sober or not. They're helpful and they're supportive, but they don't need me to be sober. I just need to have people in my life like you, my wife, and the fucking 90 other people I've interviewed in the last 6 months. Because
Yeah.
majority of those people I'm still friends with. And I still talk to all the time. They share my shit. I share their shit. Like I said, that guy Travis that I mentioned, like him and I talk all the time. He's been on my show twice now, and we literally were always chatting with each other, like in DMs about whatever's going on with sobriety and, different kind of shit. Like it's those kind of relationships that are what keep us sober for so long. Like you said, it's the people around us. When we start getting the people around us that are going to average us down, and then now we're going to go out and party all the time, and now we're going to go out and use drugs again, as opposed to you're around people like that are writing and aspiring to write, or they're telling their story, or they're doing a podcast. Because Tiffany just started her podcast and it's fucking awesome, way more professional looking than mine. And she said she has like somebody that does like everything like in a studio and helps her with that. I'm like, okay, good. I feel a lot better. So I'm like, damn, girl, like what the fuck?
I know.
How am I so far behind you already? Like, she's like, no, I have help. Don't worry, it's not me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I feel a little bit better. She's like, yeah, this guy has his own studio and he's fucking awesome. I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I hope to do, because I want to do multiple podcasts out of here. I want to help other people get their podcasts going, because I love doing this, and I love like the Jules, the girl from Philly, how I met my sober mom. That's what it is. I was it her or no, Krista Living Sober. I was on her podcast recently, but she's had a lot of questions on like how to do YouTube, how to do TikTok, and how to incorporate like the show. And they're like, I love, helping people. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry for asking. I'm like, no, ask me. I have all this information. I want to be able to give it to somebody. Like it helps me to help you. So please fucking reach out if you're watching or listening and you need support in either staying sober or with trauma in your past. Krissi and I want to hear from you. Like,
Yeah.
this is what keeps us sober, is getting those random messages in the middle of the night saying, hey, I follow your shit and thank you so much for what you do, because I really appreciate it. Like, that shit means a lot to, I know, me.
It means so much to me. It's, it's humbling, and it's also, it's easy to look at someone who's actually doing the work and saying, reach out to me. It helps me to help you. Other than when I was in addiction, I've always been like, I used to be a social worker, so I've always wanted to help people, and I would do so much for them to avoid doing my own work. But it's so different when you're doing the work and, someone's reaching out to you and you can help them, and you can help them because you've been there or you're coming out of there. instead of just saying, I know what to do, because that used to be me. I know what to do and the steps for you to take and play out, but I'm not doing it myself. It's
Yeah, I know how to give you direction, but I don't know how to follow my own direction.
So I
Yeah,
just got off track.
I know that makes sense though. What you're saying makes sense to me. Is that, because I feel that same way. I know how to tell somebody to quit something, but I still smoke a pack a day almost. You know what I mean? And I know I need to quit smoking cigarettes. The problem is I don't want to stop smoking cigarettes. So I won't be able to quit until I actually want it. I know I need to. I know it's unhealthy. I know that I cough. I have a smoker's cough because I've been smoking now 22, 23 years. You know what I mean? Like, in addiction, all through my 20s, I was smoking 2 packs a day. Because when you're on pills, you're just like, you're monkey fucking your cigarettes all day long. Like, for people that don't know, it's when you light one cigarette with the other. It's butt to butt monkey fucking. So that's what we called it in Jersey. I don't know about in Ohio, but when we light one with the other, we called it monkey fucking. So I always love saying it. But yeah, that's what I was chain smoking. I was living in an apartment where I could just smoke in my apartment, and I just ridiculous burning holes. Like, even the shorts I'm currently wearing are from my addiction years, and I'm looking at 4 different holes on them in the crotch area, which is about on par with all my clothes from addiction. These are just the last of the Mohicans when it comes to my shorts that are from addiction. All the rest of my clothes are gone by now because I've been clean for a while, because I wasn't like dropping cigarettes on my shorts when I was drinking. It was happening from dipping out on pills and Xanax.
Yeah.
I would dip out and then drop a cigarette thank fucking God for fire safe cigarettes. Because I don't know, do you smoke?
No.
Okay. Cigarettes before 2007, they burned a lot of houses down, and they ended up making an extra like layer of paper in like 2007, so that it's called there was a regulation across the country, and so that they're less likely to burn. People used to, back in the day, you could put a cigarette in an ashtray and light it, and then watch the whole cherry go back as the whole thing is a long ash, and it just burns the entire time until it goes out. Fire safe cigarettes, that doesn't happen. You light it, and if you don't take a drag within a couple like seconds again, it goes out on you, because they want to make sure you're not going to burn shit down. But it doesn't mean cherries aren't going to burn holes in your shorts.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's a lot of like addicts that are like listening or watching, looking at their shorts going, fuck, yeah, he's talking about me. Because I know all my friends that I used to get high with had holes in their shorts. I wasn't the only asshole.
So yeah, but to go back to what you're saying about the messages, one thing that I've like kind of taken from you is, well, I was doing it before, but now I feel differently about it. Taking survivors' stories and posting them anonymously. I've had some hate for it, of course, but when people reach out to you and says, tell their own story for the first time, it's really amazing, especially when you help people step into themselves.
Yeah, are you referring to a couple of the people that I had on my show that didn't want their identities showing, so I hid them? I had 2 interviews that are audio only because they didn't want their identity shown. One because of his career, and I personally know him because I met him in CA, Cocaine Anonymous meetings out in LA, 4 years ago. Him and I met, and then so I was cool with him being anonymous. And it's funny because you listen to us, we didn't talk anonymously. Anybody that knows us knows who he is, just from his accent and the way he talks. And so it's funny because we didn't try to like hide his voice or anything. I just didn't put up a video of him talking, and I just cut out his name every time we said it. And that was how we did it. And then the other woman, I'm sorry if you're listening, but I met her on TikTok. We did a 2-hour podcast together, and I then put it out, and then I made a promo for it. And then she was like, can you please take it down? Because like, I'm afraid my kid's going to see it. And I'm afraid my kid is going to know what kind of horrible mom I was when he was first born. Even though she was sober 11 years, But she talked about how, she didn't remember changing his diapers in the middle of the night because of being wine drunk. Like, the kind of drinker that was like going to the bar every night. She was that mommy drinker, right? That it's 5 p.m. to get the wine out kind of drinker. And then she realized what was happening with the drinks eventually when she started realizing that she wasn't remembering changing her kid's diaper in the middle of the night or feeding them. And that scared her enough to finally, when he was like 6 months or 9 months, she, got into a program and, got sober. And now she's still sober to this day. And she had a lot of great stories, a lot of personal stories about where she's from and all that kind of stuff. And so I took it down like she asked, because I don't want anyone out there that isn't comfortable, But then I went back in and I edited. And I edited out every single time we made a reference to what state she was in. And we made a reference to the city she was in. We said her name. We took that out every single time. And then I just put like some bullshit like logo over top of it. And I released it as audio only. I released it as an audio only episode just to get the message out there. And it ended up being still to this day my most listened to episode.
Wow.
Like my episode, like average probably 40, 50 listeners per episode is like the average. That one has like 140. Like,
yeah.
And it was like 120 in like a fucking day. Like it was crazy because I knew her story was powerful and I knew it was important to put out there. And honestly, I didn't, say, hey, I'm going to do it this way. I just took it upon myself, honestly. People can think whatever about that, but the story was important and no one has any idea who that person is besides me, and I'm not going to tell anybody. So, that to me, it is what it is, but I thought it was important just to have her story out there like that. So, but I'm so glad we have to talk again and catch up. I
know. It's always fun.
It is. And I know that you're going to be coming back for more. Because this is your second appearance. Oh, we're going to do a live one. The next one you'll do will be a live one.
Okay.
Yeah, because Krissi will visit soon. We're not that far from each other. And when Krissi does visit.
Yes.
When you do visit, you'll be sitting right here at my desk with me. And yeah. And that will be a live interview for the first time. It'll be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So that will be the next appearance that Krissi makes, which we don't know when that will be. Hopefully soon. But yeah, that will be the next time on. But thanks again.
Nope. Thank you.